So I was thinking recently, and by thinking I mean I was also like watching YouTube videos and stuff that contributed to these thoughts. Um, when it comes to marketing, branding, advertising, etc., there is, I think there's kind of two different types of quote unquote strategy. There's like strategy, like lowercase s strategy, which is the concept of being strategic. Like everyone should be strategic in whatever their role is, right? And think,
Yeah.
proactively and do a good job. But then there's also strategy like capital S, where some agencies, not everyone has this separated, but some agencies will have like a strategy department where their whole job, whether they're a general strategist or they're a digital strategist or a creative strategist or whatever, where the strategist's job is to help lay out the basically the solution to the problem. They come up with like, this is the opportunity or your problem, and they work with the client to say we need to do this in this way with this audience, and basically put together the brief, for all intents
Right.
and purposes, put together the brief, and then hand that brief to then those who then do the kind of the how, like the execution of the solution. So digital team or creative team, if they need a campaign concept or whatever, and say we need to accomplish this thing, and these are the objectives that need to be measured, and so on and so forth. Here's the brief, and then go and figure out how to do that, and then we come up with plans. And so that's how sometimes it operates in certain agencies. I've been trying to think about where and when is the ideal like separation or distinction between those roles, because you don't want to tell anybody, oh, don't be strategic. Their strategy, you just are, a mindless zombie. Everyone should be thinking strategically, but not
Hmm.
everyone is necessarily well cut out at being a strategist. I'll talk, for example, about
Sure.
like the creative team. For example, I work with the creative team, in my agency, and we don't really have that distinction right now. And part of the reason I'm thinking about this is I'm trying to help figure out if we should build out strategy as like a separate role or division within creative, or if all of our creatives should be creative strategists as well. Just kind of how it's been operating. There are some people that are really good at figuring out what the solution is, and then also how we going to then accomplish that, the execution. Some people, this isn't to say it's less than or it's bad to not have both. You can make tons of money and a great career being just like a fulfillment, like just the execution. Where some people say, I don't want to have to worry about the hows and the whats and the research and the data and the targeting. Tell me what message you need to what people and where it needs to go and what channels you have in mind in your budget. And then within that sandbox, I can think of awesome campaign ideas and headlines and visuals. And not everyone is cut out to do the other part of that. So I don't know if I have a
Sure.
question for you, I guess, but just like reaction to that, thoughts to that. Am I thinking about that in the right way?
I do think there's like it's a sliding scale of strategy, and I think you like binaried it with the lowercase and the uppercase. Um, I don't know. I feel like in at my current agency, we don't do a lot of capital S strategy. Our clients usually come to us because they have a plan and they need someone to help execute it. So we might help with maybe middle case strategy, if that's a thing, where we're we're helping them take that big plan and then coming up with the creative ways to
Like
execute on it.
technical knowledge of how the platforms work and stuff. And
Well, that, and even at a creative level, like coming up with like what the campaign actually is going to
okay,
be or something like that. But it's not like we're the ones who said this is the plan, so let's figure out what to do with it. It's more like, here's the plan, now how are we going to fulfill on it? And so there's, I think there's even a spectrum of
yeah,
strategy within that. My hands are doing things, but you can't see it, they're down here, but really it's like
I was
there's
drawing
this.
S's on my desk.
Yeah. Eh,
Are
my mic
are you
stands in the way.
and your team happy with that? Like, do you like that on the strategy spectrum? Do you like where you're at, or do you feel like you wish you were more one direction or the other?
I love the capital S strategy. I think that's what's really fun for me, is talking to a client and figuring out like what their problem is and how to solve it. And then and then I think I enjoy the very lowercase strategy where it's like getting into the minutia of a campaign and then figuring it out. I am not great at. I don't think I am anyway. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm awesome. I don't know, but like I'm not. I don't think I'm great at that like middle case strategy where it's like taking the idea and then coming up with like the campaign message and visuals. Like that's just not me. Um, I think I
Mhm.
could help come up with like, okay, so these are where your problems are. These are the things we need to focus on. Now someone else help me figure out how to get it there. Anyway, but to answer your
Yeah.
question about the team, I think most of my team or most of the people at my agency are pretty comfortable being the lowercase s. Like I don't think it's ever been a focus of our company to try to be that uppercase s. Um, But I think there's a few of us that enjoy it a little bit more. And when we see an opportunity to have those kind of conversations with clients, they do happen, which is great. But a lot of what happens when we talk about strategy is just like, okay, well, maybe we pivot some budget into a new tactic or something.
Yeah. Well, your agency is specifically focused on digital, right, for the most
Mm-hmm.
part, and so there is the ability to the nature of what you're offering is more of that tactical, the how, the lowercase s. We've been calling it strategy.
Yeah.
And which my agency offers as well, but we try to kind of be a little bit more of a full service, which has its benefits and its cons, which is this is kind of the problem where it's like, well, we can kind of do everything to a degree. Maybe we're better at something than other, but we offer a range of services: PR, development, creative, digital design, things like that. So it's like clients sometimes come to us with unlike saying, hey, I need digital marketing, can you do it for me? A lot of our clients are like, I need help with this problem, and we have to help decide what we want to pitch to them or help organize what array of services. And that's where that question comes to my mind, is like strategy. How much should we be trying to, I guess not as an agency, but on an individual level, I guess is what I'm saying. There are some people in the agency that are like, okay, I'm ready to put this together. Let's put the plan together. And some other people working shoulder to shoulder with them are more lowercase s strategy, where it's like, give me the brief and I'll do an awesome job. I don't want to make the brief. Or maybe they want to make the brief, but just aren't that good at it yet. And I'm trying to figure out, like,
Yeah.
looking down the road a little bit, I'm helping my agency get better. Should we try to make individuals more capital S strategists, or should we let them be what they are if they're not, and just build out a team of strategists that are their own thing, that serve that work with people who are not the strategist? There's both ways that it's been done, and I'm just thinking out loud about that. But yeah,
I think I think I think it would be a disservice to clients to try to force someone who doesn't want to be a lowercase s strategist to be an uppercase strategist. Like I feel like that would be setting the client up for failure. If I'm really good at just optimizing campaigns and coming up with A/B tests or something, and I have no interest really in doing the big stuff, then don't don't put me in that position. I think that would be bad for the clients, and vice versa. I think there are some people who do think big really well, but they don't think into the minutia enough. So I think it's a matter of finding the right people for the right positions. So I would go building the capital S team with people who are built that way.
yeah. I think I lean that way too. And we have to be careful in our industry. I think it maybe applies to other industries as well. But I was actually watching a Instagram live with Chris Doe and the Made by James from Instagram. He's a designer. They were talking on Instagram live and talking about how there's kind of this sensitivity to say someone is just a fill in the blank, like they're just a designer and not a creative strategist, for example, or they're not an art director or something. And how by just, like, some people mean it as like just meaning it is the whole focus, like it's just this, where but the word just can kind of sound like it's not here, it's just this, like it's lower. And
Mm-hmm.
so again, I'm defaulting to creative department terms, but taking a designer for example, there's nothing bad or embarrassing or shameful or lower of being quote unquote just a designer. There are some people making tons of money doing amazing stuff, like working for big companies who just really do the craft really well. And so some just designers, so to speak, are valuable. As it doesn't mean that you're like not progressing or not succeeding in your career if you're not moving. And again, this is also like moving up. Sometimes we mean like up in the org
Yeah.
chart, but like if I'm not moving up in the org chart, that means I'm not good at my career, right? And so, which I get, if that's your path, great. If you want to move up or you want to oversee or manage or be a creative director or be a strategist, whatever, that's great too. I'm not saying no one should try for that, but it's hard sometimes. People might be like, well, I really like I like running, Google at Facebook ads, or I like designing logos, or I like, just writing code for a website. I don't want to have to worry about the other stuff, or it's
Mm-hmm.
just not my passion. That's great. But then, like you said, we shouldn't try to then say, well, you're not growing and advancing. You have to move that direction. If you're otherwise, you're underachieving or something. I don't think that should be the case. And I think sometimes we feel that way, or unintentionally suggest that's the case by saying they're just a designer or they're just a digital strategist. Like, be good at that, and if you want to expand, great. But it shouldn't be something to look down on.
Yeah, I totally agree. There is a web developer at your agency. I don't know if he's still there, but one I used to work with who uh, phenomenal developer, like really, really good. But he did not want to make any executive decisions. It was just like, tell me what to do and I will do it and I will do it great. But that was
Yeah,
his role and that's what he wanted. And we didn't try to push him into something else. And it worked out great for everybody
yeah,
because the people who could think about the plans and how the website needed to function and what we really wanted out of it could happen, and then he knew how to make it happen. So I think that's totally fine. I feel like it's kind of like that whole um, mentality of like trying to grow up the ladder or change your job title to something more fancy and whatever is it's a weird capitalistic society thing. It kind of feels it makes me think about like telling a high schooler they have to go to college because
yeah.
that's what you do, and like you're not improving as an adult if you don't improve your title.
And they can lead to burnout and loss of talent because then people are like, well, hey, there's nowhere else to go except this one spot that's not open right now. I guess I better jump ship. And again, like I was
Yeah.
saying, it's okay if you do. I'm not saying moving up is inherently bad. If you want to expand your role,
No.
do that. But like, yeah, and I guess my advice for anybody who wants to go from like a digital specialist to like a digital manager, or from a designer or copywriter to like a creative director or something like that, is make sure you do learn the craft well, like earn your stripes, so to speak, because the better you know the craft, one, you have that skill in your back pocket to keep using, but two, you can then help. You're not going to be able to manage it very well if you haven't done it well yourself, right? You're probably not going to get the job, I guess, if you're not good at the craft first. But there is, yeah, there is sometimes I think people who are so eager to move up that they're just like looking ahead and like, well, do good work wherever you're at, do good work, and
Mm-hmm.
and also going along that same lines of it not being like bad to be just whatever the thing is, you might move quote unquote down in your career, and that's not a bad thing. Maybe you're like, you know what? I've been in 6 meetings today and have hardly had any time to do like the writing or dive into the ad platform, whatever your thing that you like to do is, and you're like, this sucks. This is just talking about organization and connecting and playing. I want to do the stuff that goes out into the world. And maybe you go somewhere and go from like, you're a creative director and then you go and become a senior designer somewhere else. That could be seen as like a downgrade or like a demotion or whatever. But if you're doing
Yeah.
what you love, one, you're going to enjoy it. And two, you're going to make more money and have more success doing what you love really well and what you're good at really well, um, than trying to chase titles.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do. The one caveat to that I'd say is like you do have to like acknowledge that if you decide this is what you want forever, then you will be capped. Like if you're not at a top salary level already, like there's gonna like if your job title's not improving and your
Yeah.
responsibilities aren't growing, your salary will cap out at some point. And as long
Yeah.
as you're okay with that and you've built your life around that, that's fine. You should that's probably a healthier way to live, honestly.
Yeah, that forget the industry we work in. Just in any job, if you're chasing money to a degree that you are now making good money and not liking what you do, there's, I mean, I don't know. There's a point, right? Like,
Yeah.
if someone may pay me $10 million for something I didn't love, I probably do it. But like, with, but yeah. Anyways, I think that the sentiment I feel like is still true. Like if you're chasing money, it's not going to be as satisfying. And there is a point where it does have a diminishing return. Like maybe you are making, wow, this is like I didn't love this very much, and I am making crazy money now. I can deal with some crap, but then how much more money would make you want to take on more crap or things you don't like? It kind of has diminishing returns, and so I can't speak as someone who's making tons of money, but I've been fortunate and I'm doing okay, I think. But yeah, anyways.
Yeah. No, I think those are all good points. I had a moment yesterday where I lead our advertising team. That's my job. I have 7 or 8 team members who all run ads and stuff, and that's great. And I get to be a manager. It's fun, whatever. But I'm not like as hands-on in the platforms as much as I am decently, but not as much as I used to be. And I had an account manager reach out to me yesterday, and he's like, "Hey, we need to get this campaign live before the end of the day." I'm like, "Dude, it's a Friday. It's like 2:30 in the afternoon. Half my team's already gone for the weekend, and because they're in a different time zone." And I kind of, poor guy, I feel a little bad, but I kind of bitched at him a little bit, like, "Dude, stop doing this to me." But then I dropped what I was doing and I built the campaign that he wanted, and it was kind of like a back to basics sort of moment for me, and it felt good. So,
nice.
Even though I complained about it and gave him a hard time about it, it was
Well, a little bit nice not have to do it at 3 p.m. on a Friday, but yeah, it's good to get to keep keeping it sharp, so to speak. Yeah. Okay. You've given me clarity. I can go forward now.